Networks are the fundamental unit of communication in the 21st century, and indeed, networks are the basis of life itself. Networks are all about connection. From the human nervous system to global electronic networks, human connections provided by networks are ubiquitous. Interestingly, networks of all type, including neural networks, cellular networks, interpersonal networks, social networks, and electronic networks have many similar characteristics. All networks are about linkages, about communication, and about interaction. All networks need energy, tend to propagate more networks, employ feedback loops, and if they are destined to survive, have homeostatic properties. All networks are perplexed by noise and interference and can be pathways of pathology as well as conduits of communication. In another module, I will examine the impact and consequences of emerging electronic and social networks that are so central to life here in the 21st century. These social networks permeate the lives of the youngest generations, especially the under 30 millennials, who use social networks and texting as primary forms of communication. But first, let's begin by examining the most basic networks of life, the neurological networks and cellular networks that form the basis of life itself. Traditionally, the term neural networks referred to the human nervous system. Today, of course, this term has been borrowed metaphorically to refer to computational and mathematical models inspired by the human nervous system. But originally, the term referred to the human nervous system. Your nervous system works like an electrical company, with impulses sent along nerves to axons that send signals to dendrites across synapses. Complex feedback systems collect sensory input and send them to muscles and the brain for action. In short, your nervous system is a model for all the networks we will discuss today. Neurophysiological research demonstrates that neural connections are the basis for all human behavior. Research also shows that network growth is fastest in infancy. New neural pathways can be laid down throughout life. Humans that engage in more stimulating intellectual activity, as well as more physical exercise, lay down more dense and interactive neural networks. This is one of the reasons why mental and physical activity is protective against Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Recent research has debunked the myth that old dogs can't learn new tricks. Indeed, while new neural pathways are easier to create in infancy, childhood, stimulating and novel mental activity can continue to create new neural networks deep into the senior years. Biological neural networks are made up of millions of axons that stimulate receptor cells called dendrites across gaps called synapses. Every movement, perception, thought, or emotion involves this process of axons firing signals across millions of synapses to dendrites to form our neural network, the human nervous system. Like all networks, the human nervous system can go awry and be disrupted. A stroke occurs when the brain is deprived of oxygen and parts die and are difficult or impossible to restore. Like other networks that suffer such a trauma, the network may continue to function, but not at full capacity. Strokes lead to a loss of cognitive function, paralysis of specific body parts, and reduce connections within the network. Humans can also suffer from uncontrolled signals that run rampant across the nervous system in epileptic disorders. Amputees can receive false signals from their ghost limb, creating false feedback or phantom pain. Thus, although neural networks are vital to human life, they can malfunction. Similarly, today, we will reveal how other networks can be highly functional or mistakenly dysfunctional. Artificial neural networks, or ANNs, have been used widely in cognitive science, psychology, and neuroscience. A discussion of these applications is beyond the scope of today's program, but briefly they have been useful in mathematical modeling, computational science, to draw an analogy between the complex human nervous system and complex human constructive networks that are useful in statistics and model construction, medical diagnosis, and data mining. These networks model design systems that mimic the human nervous system. Like real biological networks, neural network models can become dysfunctional when researchers rely too much on the analogy between biological systems and artificial systems. Interest in ANN has waxed and waned over the years, but still has major applications to new discoveries in computational science and artificial intelligence. Let's refer now to cellular networks. Inside each cell of your body are mitochondria, the power plants of the living cell. Mitochondria take food energy and convert it to heat energy, electrical energy, and muscular energy. Living cells are an amazing creation. They are coded with genetic information, so they know if they are designed to be involved in respiration, digestion, or propulsion. They convert food energy delivered by the bloodstream into mechanical energy, heat energy, and electrical energy. But living cells are not foolproof. Genetic defects or the intrusion of toxins and radiation can send cells askew, creating cancers with out-of-control networks of cellular growth. Indeed, the recruitment of malignant cells in tumors is extremely effective and pernicious, and the world's best scientists are involved in an unending quest to stop these malevolent networks of cells from consuming a human being. Like other malevolent networks, they must be disrupted via radiation, ironically, drugs, nutrition, or surgery. Our most fundamental network is the family. Families are often part of a genetic and biological network, and usually part of an interpersonal and cultural network. Families give us hundreds of resources, even beyond love, food, clothing, and shelter. They may get us started financially, send us to school or college, recommend businesses, provide advice, and give us jobs. Our immediate family is the network of first resort. For most children, and even most adults, our immediate family is always there for them. Problems can also perplex family or business networks where personal financial disputes can perturb or completely disrupt the networks. One pitfall of hiring or partnering with family members in business relationships is that a dispute or a problem within the family can jeopardize the business, or vice versa. A business problem can spill over into the family, creating conflict, ill will, or even estrangement. Family businesses may also lack capital for expansion and innovation, and thus need to attract outside venture capital or partnerships or risk stagnation. Nonetheless, in Latin America and most of the world, the family unit is the basis of family life, business relationship, and of course, interpersonal networks. Among the most important networks are interpersonal networks, composed of our closest friends. These networks are so important that research shows that the quality of one's life can be judged by the depth and strength of our closest relationship. Far more than possessions, money, status, or our professions, our closest interpersonal relationships and networks provide us with joy, amusement, intimacy, warmth, and a host of other irreplaceable social resources. Communication research also shows that intimacy and affection lead to better physical health, less heart disease and strokes, reduction in stress hormones, and less obesity. Interpersonal networks of close friends constitute an emotional safety net and are our most basic source of comfort, interpersonal growth, and social support. Close relationships also provide us with the foundation of a professional relationship. Similar to many close professional relationships are the foundations of long-term friendships. Occupational, professional, and financial success require strong professional networks. Some people think that what you know is enough to be successful in life. Others think that who you know is what will lead to success. They are both half right and half wrong. It is the intersection of both skills or knowledge with networks that lead to success. Strong ties are the lifeblood of any professional or occupational endeavor. Many people get their first job through a family member or close friend. Often it is these people who introduce you to potential employers, business partners, customers, and suppliers. It is important to think first and foremost about your closest allies that can help you connect the dots. My networks of professional colleagues are inextricably intertwined with my friendship networks. These networks span decades and are instrumental to the books I write, the grants I obtain, and the consulting I do, and the research I conduct. They are a necessary but insufficient condition for success because, of course, successful collaborations also require skill and competence. The blessings and the curses of close family and friends are predictable, but not inevitable. They illustrate the essence of networks. In a network, the constituent parts are impossible to disentangle. Networks become a system beyond the essence of any person or any component of the network. Interpersonal networks are simultaneously the most joyous and the most hurtful, the safest and the most dangerous. Increasingly, weak ties may be just as important or even more important than strong ties. Weak ties are networks of acquaintances and casual friends that we do not know very well. Some people have many nodes of these weak, loosely connected networks. Additionally, members of each node in the networks of weak ties tend not to know each other. Unlike strong ties, where all the network members know one another, weak ties are comprised of multiple networks with little or no connection to one another. For example, my weak ties include communication professors I meet occasionally at professional meetings, colleagues in other departments at my university, people I run marathons with, members of a wine club I belong to, fans at San Diego State football and basketball games, and former students that I communicate with sporadically, people I know from doing cancer prevention research, a group of musicians that meets periodically, and many more. Research suggests that when a person has numerous weak ties, they possess more information, influence, and social capital. Diffusion of new ideas and practices often occur across these weak ties as people communicate information about their personal health, politics, and business topics. Studies have shown that people with many weak ties are more likely to get job offers, educational opportunities, and business transactions. Today, networking opportunities such as meet and greets, professional conferences, and exchanges of business cards, random airline encounters, industry events, and business acquaintances are continuously available. Meeting people or working a room is not rocket science. It takes courage, extroversion, and the art of small talk. People that work a room ask questions and find things in common. The obligatory exchange of business cards should be followed with a strategic email message suggesting the possibility of future collaborations. These weak ties can provide a huge network of potential employers, employees, consulting opportunities, customers, suppliers, or advisors. Recording these encounters and relationships and keeping a notebook or an online record of your communication is essential. There is nothing like face-to-face contact for establishing a network of weak ties. Today, however, social media sites like LinkedIn can provide a vast network of business, academic, and professional relationships that become a great source to draw upon. Regardless of whether networks are based on old-fashioned face-to-face contact or whether they are internet or social media based, the same principles apply today that have applied for hundreds of years. Networks are invaluable resources to draw upon. Indeed, in his 1973 article published in the American Journal of Sociology entitled The Strength of Weak Ties, Mark Granvatner laid out many of these principles. Everett Rogers, in his books that span 5 decades on the concept of diffusion of innovation, also showed the incredible value of networks and their connections, including opinion leaders and change agents that I have spoken about in other ITC programs. Humans are unique because their ideas flow through networks that we can attend to, utilize, and improve upon these ideas in an interpersonal network that it provides. Today, the hype surrounding networks is less about technology than about the ancient principles of networking. Technology guru Andrew McPhee of MIT suggests that companies today understand the strength of weak ties and spend considerable time and money to enable knowledge workers to interact with their close colleagues. They create cross-functional teams that have the right kinds of diversity and hold brainstorming sessions where coworkers can network and exchange ideas. The problem with strong ties is they tend to be comprised of people with so much in common that new ideas tend not to arise. McPhee suggests that what makes social networking sites so vital in the business world, Facebook, LinkedIn are valuable because they increase the number of nodes and provide additional weak ties. These enable associates and friends and provide a great way to connect the dots in one social network and to activate them when they can be beneficial. A word on business networks is in order. Though we often hear a lot about the laws of supply and demand and price point as the fundamental driver of the world economy, much of the global marketplace is based on networks and not based on economics. The world is not a dispassionate judge of supply and demand, but instead a messy, networked emotional, interpersonal algorithm where the success of a product or a company depends more on image, word of mouth, gut feelings, and impression management than price point or scarcity. Most importantly, people rely on networks. If you want a babysitter, a carpenter, or a dentist, it is unlikely you will search for one at random or find the cheapest one out there. Instead, you're likely to consult a friend, a family member, or a business associate. And you are unlikely to go to the lowest bidder. Likewise, today's global economy is a network. You may choose your credit card not on the interest rates, but because of the miles it gives you on your local airline or free nights at a hotel. You may choose your hotel based on their affiliation with your airline or your credit card, and your rental car company based on its affiliation with and location in your hotel. You may choose a gas station if it takes your favorite credit card. You may use extra airline miles to subscribe to your favorite magazine or get a coupon for a restaurant. When you collect airline miles or hotel points, you have joined a business network that will connect you for better or worse with other network members. You will get access to the executive lounge and free nights and flights, but you will not use the laws of supply and demand. Instead, you will give up some freedom to derive the benefits of the network. In Japan, this has been going on for centuries. The Japanese keiretsu and the family organizations that preceded them are in essence network monopolies that are vertically integrated. These international interlocked business relationships are based on networks of obligation and not on the laws of supply and demand. The influence of multinational giants is huge, and they may be more powerful than national governments. So what is a person to do? You can join them and attempt to be part of these networks. You can fight them with low probability of successful action. You can compete with them, but that is a long shot. Or you can circumvent them by using the internet to create new interpersonal, media, and business networks. This is where an internet presence is necessary for business. It eliminates the middleman and connects you directly with the customer. And you can consider subscribing to a service that aggregates all small companies of a single type, whether selling coffee, tacos, olive oil, wine, antiques, consulting services, accounting, or whatever. You must have a presence on the internet and should consider a Facebook site, a Twitter account, and a presence on eBay. These outlets have the potential to circumvent the markets and media that are controlled by giant networked conglomerates. For better or worse, the internet has created highly efficient competitive markets that benefit some new markets and harm other traditional businesses. eBay and other online auction sites have disempowered antique dealers and cut costs dramatically. Instead of an antique dealer having a small set of items in a given locale or store, eBay has listings of thousands of similar antiques simultaneously with a considerable variation in price. It is often a buyer's market since a consumer can select the lowest price from dozens or hundreds of similar or identical items. At an antique dealer, one has fewer options, namely to accept the price, haggle, or walk out. The global marketplace has reduced antiques to their true value. Studies show that items can be purchased for approximately 25% less on eBay than at a conventional store. And initially, the impact of eBay was much greater. It depressed the value of many items such as antique furniture, baseball cards, stamp collections, and fine porcelain. Of course, retail companies have begun to use online auction sites as well. Today, one can buy new items from toothpaste or sunscreen to motorboats and cars on eBay and other online sites. Indeed, any retail or wholesale business should consider the pros and cons of both their own websites as well as selling on auction sites like eBay. Online markets eliminate the middleman at retail outlets, which has advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage is that it can drive down costs, which can result in lower prices for consumers and more profits for the business. The disadvantage is that it may disrupt the supply chain, and retailers may revolt by refusing to compete with a company's online presence. Retail businesses are not the only ones that can benefit from an online presence. Business-to-business commerce, or B2B e-commerce, is burgeoning. Indeed, B2B commerce dwarfs business-to-consumer commerce. B2B aggregation sites, also called e-hubs or B2B directories, can present costs of numerous raw or supply chain materials simultaneously. For example, if an automaker wants to buy steel, tires, or radios to manufacture cars, they can search B2B websites worldwide and shop for the best price, delivery time, and quality. The key here is that these sites can create global supply chain networks which create long-term customers and/or suppliers for business. Today, with such global networking, a company is not constrained by locale or nationality and can foster the best business networks worldwide. Today, successful businesses must take advantage of global sourcing and product cost efficiencies to be competitive. Ian Prince, a senior manager with Accenture's global supply chain practice, in an interview with Lisa Harrington cited in Inbound Logistics blog, suggests that creating a global supply chain network, companies must assess every aspect of the network according to the following principles: the influence of low-cost labor, geographic distances and their impact on service and availability, barriers associated with language and technology sophistication, volatility and reliability issues, cultural and political barriers related to local governance, additional supply chain links, handoffs, and customs challenges, inventory visibility problems, the role of immediacy and perishability in determining the optimal network, the impact of extensive transit times on inventory costs and ownership. I hope you now have a sense of the inevitable reinvention of communication we are all witnessing today on a global scale, driven by the multi-purpose nature of networks now powered by technology. In another module, I will discuss the newest and perhaps the most powerful type of networking in the world today, which is social networking. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, and let's now go to Module 2 of this program.